want to know what's missing from R&B today besides the budget and songwriting, and in some cases, the talent. But anyway, beyond all that, you know what's missing? I miss a good R&B group. I miss specifically a good male R&B group. Just brothers coming together to harmonize and take things to another level. I'm missing that. We don't have groups anymore, and it makes me sad. I guess we just can't find common ground these days like we could. I mean, maybe that's why I don't even have too many guests on this show. Like, who would I have? Who can I have to find common ground with? I mean, definitely not that guy. And for sure not that guy. So today, let's just take a break from the norm and break out the good old tier list. Yes, we're going back to the tier list to celebrate some of male R&B's best groups. Man, I wish these groups could get back together, but I know how it is. You always ask, can we all get along? And then I look around and I say, no. Welcome, y'all. Thank you. And yes, we're back for another edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions right here on YouTube. Where else would we be? And yep, we are going to get in big trouble today. Big trouble. I'm going to get canceled because it is time for another one of our tier lists. So a few months ago, we did our first tier list. It was Lil Wayne's mixtapes. Y'all liked it. So we're going to go back to that. It's a little different than the usual way that we do rankings. So we're going to try this with some of R&B's best male groups. And this is how it came about. So I went to Instagram, I went to Twitter, I went to Facebook, the Soul and Stereo Cypher on Facebook, to be exact. Go join us there if you like what we do here on these YouTube videos. And I just asked them, y'all share with me some of your favorite R&B male groups. Of course, I got like a list of 100. And because I don't want to keep you here all day, and your boy got stuff to do, I only took about 24 of those group members, threw them all in a pot, and we are going to put them all on our tier list thanks to our man, our boy, our dude, I'll scream, producer D-Roth. So, D-Roth, throw up the tier list and show them what we're working with. So as you see, the list contains the tippy top of the tier, that's the S tier. The A tier, of course, you might not be top, but you're still super duper dope. That's A tier. B for those who are good, not necessarily great. Then the C tier, and then y'all know what Playa Please is. So what determines these rankings? Well, I'll tell you, it's not just the album cover that we're using here. So don't get it mixed up. I'm not talking about a specific album. What I'm talking about is a mix of legacy, of album consistency over the years, songs over the course of the years, legacy. We're talking about vocal ability, how good at you at the actual thing of singing, which is something y'all seem to forget about. This is about talent, not about Instagram pictures. Y'all drive me nuts. Anyway, this is an overall look at their career and talent, not necessarily one album or one song. So that's what we're going to get into today. But first, you know how we do it here. Before you do anything, make sure you hit like right now. Go on and do it right now. I can see it. I can see you. Hit like right now, and I will greatly appreciate that. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I will even more greatly appreciate that. We've had our subscribers, you've seen them jump up lately, and I'm very, very proud of that. So thank you for subscribing. Continue to do that. And when we're done, make sure you share this video with the R&B fan in your life. Show them what we got going on here. And I'll get ready for y'all to yell at me in the comments. Without any ado, D. Roth, let's get to it. The R&B male tier list. First up is Mint Condition. In my opinion, one of the best pure bands in R&B. It always bothers me when people, usually outside of the genre, calls somebody a band. Like New Edition is a band. Dru Hill is a band. They're not a band. They're not playing instruments. A band is Mint Condition. That is a band. And they are incredible at what they do. Stokely, one of the most underrated vocalists of his time. Maybe of all time. Incredible vocalist. Albums, pretty much, I ranked their albums on solarstereo.com maybe about a year or so ago. Almost every album is at least 4 stars. These guys don't miss. I'm going to give them A tier. Let's put them in A. Not quite perfect, but they're pretty freaking good. Ooh, and this is the first time I'm going to get in trouble here. Next up is B2K. So, B2K is a product of their time. If you're a younger millennial, this is your Jackson 5. I was around when 106 in Park was around, and these dudes, like, people lost their absolute minds. When they would walk on stage, it sounded like the crowd just simultaneously vomited. That's how crazy they went over these guys. They were very, very popular, and I'm not mad. I have their debut album over there back then, and it's not bad. It's not bad. The problem with B2K, though, is nostalgia. Nostalgia has blinded y'all into thinking that they've had some 20-year career. They were around for like a year and a half. They had 3 albums. They all dropped in the same calendar year. They were a flash, a very bright flash in the pan, but then they were gone. And then, of course, they had solo careers with Marion and others went on to do other things. So, even though they had a very bright and strong run, it was a very, 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 very abbreviated run. So let's move them, D-Roth, let's give them B. I can't go any higher than that. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry about your nostalgia. Can't go higher than B on them. Hoo-wee! Next up is Boyz II Men. It is so weird to me how their legacy has been devalued over the years. And I guess I get it. Because if you just weren't there and you look back at old pictures of them in their cardigans and sweaters and they're looking like Carlton with the glasses on or whatever, you're like, oh my God, these guys were such nerds. They weren't cool like Jodeci. They got their shirts off in the desert with leather on because you got to be cool to be in the desert wearing leather. Cool or not bright. Anyway, Boyz II Men is absolutely one of the greatest R&B groups of any generation. Their album, their second album too, I mean, it is one of the greatest albums ever recorded. Ever. I'm talking about any genre. Ever recorded in any genre. You cannot deny. That alone makes them elite. But when you capture their moment in time, the debut album, their later albums like Evolution that are very, for whatever reason, very underrated because it wasn't as big as that one moment in time that they had with their sophomore album. These guys were everywhere. Yes, their songs got overplayed, but there's a reason why they got overplayed, because they were massive, 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 massive hits. They are incredible, great vocalists. I do think their legacy got hurt later on because so much of their focus was out of the limelight. They weren't really putting out top tier albums. Their style wasn't emulated as strongly as Jodeci's was. And they were doing all those cover albums, and then we lost some group members, and it was a lot going on. But the point is, when you look at their overall legacy, their talent, the output of albums, it's a no-brainer. D. Roth, S tier that album. Actually, not album. S tier the whole group. They deserve it. Next up is Jagged Edge. Look, I love J.E. I give them a lot of smoke in recent years, and I'll explain why in a second. But I'm a big fan of them. Honestly, when I'm doing busy work around the office or even sometimes around the house and I just need background music, a lot of the albums I put on are those early J.E. albums, especially the second album. Can't take another heartbreak. I love that song. So I will just throw that on in the background because it's so soothing. Yeah, it is just something about the way, especially the twins harmonize over it. It's just, they're great. The problem with J.E. though is their run. Their first 3 or 4 albums were incredible. But once you get past 2003 and 2004 and start going into the past 20 years, boy, it gets rough in these streets. And I won't take away their great initial run from them, but I can't honestly put them at the heights of others because they were just, they got a little weak out in these streets. So I'm gonna have to put my boys in the B tier. That's not bad. That's not a shot. I'm not saying that they're trash because I love J.E. But I wish they had consistently kept up the level they had. And they have in the past. Their J.E. 2 Heartbreak album I thought was good. Can't take another heartbreak. But the albums outside of that, not so much. J.E. are great. There's still time for them to kind of move up on the rankings a little bit. But let's throw them in B for now. Oh, we were just talking about heartbreaks and whatnot. So now we go to Any Heartbreak with New Edition. Absolutely legendary. What can you say? In the 80s, New Edition was the R&B group. They became the template for the boy band, so to speak, going forward for the 80s and going. They really took that Jackson 5 mold and brought it to basically my generation. And the thing I love about New Edition is we watched them grow up. I mean, they were kids. They were little kids. And we saw them grow. We saw them branch out into other projects. Solo for Bobby, BBD. Johnny Gill came on, did his solo stuff. Then they reunited in 96, and that album was incredible. Wasn't as good as Any Heartbreak, because that album is, in my opinion, 5 stars. They are consistently great across the board. So influential. So many legendary songs. I mean, like J.E., yeah, they did have their kind of shaky albums later on down the road. Not that it's shaky as some of those J.E. albums. But yeah, they didn't maintain that high level of consistency. Everybody kind of slips a little bit. I'm not holding that against them because what we got at their peak was revolutionary. S tier, S tier, S tier. Easy S tier. Alright, let's switch to, we're going to shake things up a little bit with Shai. So Shai is mainly remembered for their debut in 92 and the big singles that came from that. If I Ever Fall in Love, like if you had a talent show in the 90s, somebody was singing that song. You better know how to sing if you singing that song. There was no beat backing that. And Comforter, there's lots of good stuff from them. And the ladies love them some Garfield, let me tell you. Anyway, that had great albums and success early on, but people forget that they had many albums after that. I mean, it was kind of hit and miss here and there, but they have way more than those first 2 albums that are often affiliated with them. And they're not bad, I've heard them. So even though their success is contained to that one era, a lot of the stuff afterward was pretty solid too. That's good enough for B. Throw them in B tier off. I think we got that. And now we got, man, the Isley brothers. Oh, man. Do I even need to explain this one, y'all? Do y'all even know that these... What words do I have to say for one of the most legendary groups of all time? Let me tell you. Legendary songs. I'm talking about legendary albums. Legendary performers. Songs so legendary that they would be sampled into other legendary songs. And let's not forget Ron Isley, a.k.a. Mr. Biggs, who was so dope that not only did he have a batch of fans in the 70s and going into the 80s, this dude came back in the 2000s, reinvented himself, and made more legendary songs. Easily a contender for one of the greatest groups of all time. Y'all know what I'm going to say. S tier them! S tier them! Throw that S tier on. Oh man, y'all making this too easy. So now we're at the Jackson 5? Come on, we went from New Edition to the Isley Brothers at Jackson 5. Y'all killing me. I mean... Raw. Why am I even talking? Why am I talking? This is the original boy band. This is the original. This is one of the first acts to get notoriety who were an all-black cast. This is one of the first folks. Some people probably had never seen black people before until they had seen the Jackson 5. And I'm not exaggerating. I feel like that this was their introduction to black culture. Legendary, of course. Created out of this group, the greatest performer of all time. We just lost Tito, by the way, R.I.P. T.O. Jackson. I'm wasting my breath. Y'all know what it is. D. Roth. S tier this group right now, homie. Yes. We're going to wear that air horn out. So many bangers. So many bangers. Now wait a minute. We went from New Edition, Isley Brothers, Jackson 5, to Pretty Ricky. I did not do a good job mixing these things up. Alright, let me get in trouble right quick. For, once again, my younger millennials, y'all love Pretty Ricky for reasons I don't know. Like, so for those who don't remember, Pretty Ricky was a R&B group in name only, really. They only really had one singer, Pleasure P, who was actually pretty good. I like Pleasure P. And everybody else was just a bunch of rappers. And they just took their shirts off and they just sounded ridiculous, spectacular and slickum. And they all sounded like tattoos that you would lick and rub on in the 80s. It was a little weird. But that's what they were. And besides Pretty Ricky's vocalist, Pleasure P, it won't nothing to these guys for me. They did have some good production. Shout out to my boy Static Major, who actually added to some of their stuff. But man, I cannot with these dudes at all. Look, Pleasure P, I like you, P. This isn't a shot at you. Rolf, Playa please these folks. I cannot get with them. Y'all can yell at me in the comments. I have not heard one Pretty Ricky song that wasn't ridiculous. But at least Pleasure P got a check. Good for him. Alright, and now we are at As Yet. In 1995, As Yet had so much potential. I thought they were going to be kind of to the level, maybe not New Edition level, but at least Dru Hill, 112, Jagged Edge. I thought they would be mentioned in that category, down at the new era of R&B artists. And Last Night was an absolute banger. Even though if you look at that album now, it's grown men floating in front of our Windows 95 screensaver, but such is life in the 90s. But beyond that, while it's fair to call them one-hit wonders if you want to, the album was good and those brothers were talented. They were really talented. Unfortunately, after that first run, they just had so many inconsistencies. They were switching out group members here, there, and everywhere. Go check out soulandstereo.com. I got a whole article on that. They're switching out people. The albums got really inconsistent. They just didn't have a lot of focus. Let's throw them in the C tier. They are definitely not Playa Please, but I struggle to put them higher than that. Not enough there for a B tier. Sorry, y'all. Okay, now we're at High Five. High Five was great. They were great. And another group that should have been way bigger than they were. I feel like they were just a little hindered because of the time that they came in. If they came in like a little bit later, they might have been a little bigger than they were, but it was just a lot of competition at the time. I feel like they kind of got lost in there. But man, they were great. They had some singles. She's Playing Hard to Get, Unconditional Love. Oh man, oh, I like the Kissing Game. Oh, they got joints that still get played today. I love them. And they had a great vocalist. Tony Thompson, I thought was incredible. There was so much potential to be more, but fate intervened. Tony Thompson went solo, and then we lost him. They had some other group members who passed away. Some got arrested. It's a really sad tale for High Five, but they had so much potential, and they left us with so many classics. They didn't just have one. They had classic on classic on classic single that still stays with us. That's enough, I think, for a B tier ranking. We're going to throw them up there. And now we're at Profile. If you remember Profile, you get the gold star for the day. They had two albums. One in 99, one in 2000. And y'all probably don't even remember much about them. They had a couple singles that kind of resonated in that era, but they were kind of here and gone for that. They weren't bad. They just really didn't stick around long enough to do too much. C tier them. I won't Playa Please them because they had potential, but throw them in C. Alright, Immature. So, if B2K was for those younger millennials that I mentioned, Immature was for us old head millennials. Like that, Immature was our B2K, and it's no surprise that the founders of Immature went on to found B2K. The ladies were obsessed with these eye patch wearing little pirate men. Like the girls in my class would lose their mind. I remember this one girl making up this story about how she went on a date with Romeo, and I was like, alright, we sitting at the library. I'm like, listen to her tell this story. I'm like, chick, come on now. Like, we like 11. Like, I'm not buying this. Anyway, they had a bunch of fans, and the thing that I really appreciate about Immature is they evolved over time. Once they became in their 20s and realized they couldn't be singing about, you know, being immature, they changed their brand to IMX. And even beyond the name change, every album they kind of slightly reinvented themselves for the next era of their lives and of their fan base's lives. So it felt like, as I said earlier, that we grew up with them, and that really helped. They had a lot of solid albums. They had a lot of really good cuts that we still remember today, but they never had like the incredible album or the blockbuster single. It was just all pretty good stuff consistently. So let's give them a B tier. You know, they put in work. They did their thing. It was dope. Alright, next up is Ideal. And Ideal was one of those late 90s groups, kind of like Profile, that kind of came and went. But unlike Profile, and again, no shots to Profile, they had a little bit more potential than I thought. And they had some really good singles. They had Get Gone, Creep In. I really like Whatever. Whatever stays, that still gets played on the old Thundercats phone today. Really dope song. They didn't stay around too long, like unfortunately many of the groups on our list, but they stood along long enough that people still remember. Even if you don't remember their name, you remember the songs. People from my era sure love Get Gone, and Whatever is my song. So, D-Roth, let's do B tier for them. I want to lean C, but no, I'll be generous. Let's give them a B. They have some dope stuff. Alright, next up for my 80s heads is Cameo. I don't know if Cameo even qualifies as an R&B group. They're more of a funk band in my eyes. But so much of their accomplishments are so tied to R&B. We'll do it. They're pioneers. They're absolutely pioneers in both the worlds of funk and the worlds of R&B. And even though people kind of boil their success down to the single Candy, they like thunder, like it's boiled down to that. But there's so much more to them than that. So if you look at their albums and their releases, they've got #1s up and down the decades. They were releasing albums like 5 years ago. So they are still being very consistent with what they do. Legends in their realm. In some ways, they're a little underrated for their contributions because we only think about that one song. They're much more than that. Let's put them in the A tier. Let's show them some love today. And now we are at day 26. This is another group that has a very large fan base, just depending on where you came up. Because in my opinion, they're kind of seen as the last great male R&B group. They're just, after them, it was just like they became the freaking dinosaurs, the woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger, the dodo bird. You couldn't find them anywhere. They came in a rough spot because they came at a time where groups were falling out of fashion, and then they were really out of fashion, so they were kind of left to their own devices. But because of the making of the band show and because the albums they released were very good, they are still very fondly remembered today, specifically by that 1 and 6 in Part generation who like really embraced them. And the fans of that making a band show, we won't even talk about the other person involved in making the band. He is where he belongs right now. Anyway, as far as the group, every project is sound, everything is memorable, and they just dropped an album a couple weeks ago. I haven't heard it yet. Maybe it'll make my top 10, my top 50 list of the year. Hopefully we'll see. We need some good R&B, so I'm glad that the boys are back and working on a new album. As far as where they fall on this list, let's give them a B. I think they're very solid, very strong, and there's actually some potential to be even higher later on. We have no groups right now, y'all, so we are depending on you. You are our last hope. And now, Dru Hill. Oh, yes. Yeah! That's my Cisco right there. You know Cisco is a maniac. One of the most recognized groups of the 90s. Some incredible classic songs, and their first 2 albums. I give their first album 5 stars. Their second album, very close. 2 of the best albums of their era. And when you're talking about albums that good in the 90s, you know, because the bar was super high. Everything post 2000 though, diminishing returns. I know y'all love Cisco's solo album. I do too. I think his solo album is great. But everything post like that thong song, is a sliding down the line. And that's not a shot at what they tried to do. They had a lot of lineup changes, and I actually like some of the group members. Shout out to Smokey, shout out to Black. I like Scola, he was cool too. But there was just like a loss of consistency outside of their first 2 albums, and after Cisco's solo run when he reunited with the group, it just, the magic wasn't there anymore. And every once in a while we'll get a single from them and I'm like, oh, this sounds good. But we still haven't had a project from them in a very, very long time, a full LP. Outside of that Christmas album, which was actually pretty okay. I am going to, the stan in me wants to give them an S, but let's go A tier. I can't deny some of that weak stuff later on, but when they were great, they were great. Next up is 112, and if you know me, you know how much I love these dudes. I'm gonna get my stand on just a little bit because I think they're one of the most overlooked groups of all time. Their debut, 5 stars. Their sophomore album, 5 stars. Their third album, almost 5 stars. You can't think of too many artists, groups, hip-hop, R&B, whatever, that have that type of run. Like, it is incredible their run after that. Then, yes, they left Bad Boy, and yes, things got kind of rocky, and then I feel like every group on this list we talk about, oh, they had a hot run, then they left, then the group members broke up, and everybody mad at each other, and that kind of happened with 112 too. But the new 112 did drop an EP, I think it was about 2020, and it was really good. So there's still some gas left in the 112 brand. Again, like Dru Hill, I want to put them S tier because when they were great, they were great. But I must be the unbiased reviewer that you know and hate, so I'm going to do A tier instead. I want them to be S. They are S in my heart, but I can't deny some of the weaker stuff that kind of happened in that mid-2000s range. They're rebounding though, so good for them. Next up is Playa. Again, man, I need to mix these up better because this is 3 for 3 for artists, for groups that I love, that if I was just going off of me being a stan, they would be automatic S's. I love Playa so much. Static Major, I've said many, many times, is one of the most unrecognized writers in modern R&B today. His production is incredible. As a group, the way that Smokey and Black and Static just harmonize, oh, it was so great. We don't get that anymore today. And their debut album was incredible for what it was. Overlooked, but very, very good. The problem with them is I've seen them tag with the one-hit wonder tag, and honestly, that's probably true. The title track's Cheers to You is their one big, big hit. But they've had influence over the game in so many ways, whether it's Static's productions or Smokey writing for other artists or Smokey and Black, now part of Dru Hill. Their legacy abounds, so that helps lift them up a little bit. What should I do? I want to give them an S. I want to give them an A. I'll be real and give them a B. Only because we only got the one album. The unreleased album I've heard, the unreleased sophomore album, it's good, but that's unreleased, so that doesn't really count. Oh, man. Man, forget it, D-Roth. We gonna give them an A tier. This is my list. You can get mad if you want to. I love me some Playa. We putting them in the A tier. Y'all can be stans. I want to be stan too sometimes. Alright, next up is Jodeci. And I know some of y'all think this will be a slam dunk, but I'm always here to put some nuance in the game. Hold your horses, bucko. We're going to talk a little bit about this one. So, absolutely, Jodeci is they're legendary. And we talked about it a little earlier with Boyz II Men, whereas people will be like, Boyz II Men, A lot of the 90s nostalgia for R&B groups is firmly in the camp of Jodeci. We forget, but Jodeci is one of the groups, along with Mary J. Blige, that really helped marry R&B and hip-hop into the sound of the genre that we know today. That kind of marriage really came from their early projects. And besides not only their songs, which are legendary, not only their contributions, which are legendary, their performances, which are legendary, KC screaming all over the place, legendary. However, my pushback for Jodeci has always been their albums are good, but their albums aren't really groundbreaking as people say. Well, I won't say that. They are groundbreaking, but they aren't as great and flawless as people say. Either it's too many skits, either it's badly sequenced. Every Jodeci album that I have back there, I like them, but I almost never listen to them front to back anymore because I'll just go straight to the tracks I want to hear. Like, they really struggled to put together like that 5-star classic album that we know they have. So they are great, no question. Flawless? Absolutely not. However, their legacy is so strong, their hits are so strong, their influence on the game is so strong, you gotta go S tier. We gotta give them S tier, D-Roth. There's no other question. Oh man, next up are the Stylistics. Y'all, man, I'm loving this list. So, probably my favorite group of the golden era of R&B are the Stylistics. Like, they are so great. Betcha by golly. Wow, you make me feel brand new. Break up the makeup. You're a big girl now. All of those songs that are so sampled today all came from them. They are trailblazers in their own right. And you know, we always talk about like Temptations, Four Tops, blah, blah, blah. Y'all need to talk about the Stylistics because them brothers were incredible. They were active again all the way through the 90s, even though it's forgotten. I kind of came up with them on the 90s, went back and heard the old original stuff and saw stuff sampled, like when Prince did the cover and things like that really helped me to appreciate what they did to the game early on. Pioneers all the way, and easy S tier. Throw them up there. They are that dope. Up. I can't wait for this one. Another one of my favorites. Baby, don't stop. Baby, don't stop. I wanna get freaky. Man, this boy Silk were the freakiest brothers on earth. They would lose their mind just to get the touch of a woman. I miss that. Y'all not thirsty in R&B enough for more. My boy Lil G, my boys John, Silk as a group, those brothers were singing. They sang down. They were incredible. And I know that they're another group whose success is always tied to like one song. Like they didn't have a ton of songs. But people, it's funny because y'all recognize them. Y'all know Meeting in My Bedroom. Y'all know If You. Y'all know Feeling Like Loving Me. Y'all know all those songs, but for whatever reason, they don't get packaged together. We think of this one song and then we forget about it. This one and then we forget about the rest. These brothers had hits and they had incredible albums. Their best album being their 1999 album. Their debut is great. The album in, I think it was 95, the one with the bar soap on it, that one was dope. These brothers had joints. An incredible group that, in my opinion, does not get nearly the respect they deserve. A tier all the way. Only reason I won't put them in S is because y'all gonna say I'm standing, but A tier all the way for Silk. Next up is Levert. And this is a very sad entry because both Gerald and Sean no longer with us. That just leaves Mark Gordon, and of course their patriarch still here with us. But they had a really strong 10-year run that I think sometimes people kind of forget about these days. They're kind of associated with like the late 80s and that's it. But Levert had some joints, and they had a consistent run. If you look at their contributions, pretty much every album during their hot period went gold. Gold. They didn't miss when it came to that. Very strong albums that kind of get lost today, don't get remembered as well. Everyone celebrates Gerald's solo career, of course, and of course the OJs, which they are descended from. So everyone gives them props, but Levert itself, man, listen, they had joints. We're going to give them a B tier. Their albums were good. I can't think of any like top tier great albums, but they were just so consistently good across the board that they have to get props for that. So let's give them a B. Alright, and we're down to the last one. What an auspicious one. Yes, we're going to go with Mista. Some of y'all might not remember Mista as a group. I bet you remember the songs though. You remember Blackberry Molasses, those things that never change. That song was so I don't want to say weird, but it was so different and catchy at the time. And then they had Lady, which I also love too. But besides that one album, we didn't get much from them. Of course, one of the members went on to be Bobby Valentino, aka Bobby V, who had a very strong solo run in the 2000s. But they almost feel more like a footnote or a trivia question for Bobby V's career as opposed to a group. Their album was good, but we just didn't get enough of them, and they just kind of petered off. So I like them, but I have to go see. I'll go see. Really good though. Probably not getting a reunion, but I liked it. All right, y'all, look at our tier list. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful? D-Roth, you did a wonderful job here. That is where we stand right now for these male R&B groups. Let me know what you think. Who would you have put in what places? You can yell at me. The B2K stands, I see them outside of my window now. They got the pitchforks, they got the torches, they're ready to burn my house down. So I need to take care of that. But let me know what you think, and let me know if you also want to see a part 2. I got a whole bunch more male groups I need to put up there. We didn't talk about Tony. We didn't talk about Next. There are a bunch of others that we need to get on this list. Or if you want me to go to the girl group so I can really get cussed out, let me know what y'all want to see. We'll make it happen. This edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions is a wrap. I'm going to get out of here because I see the stands lining up and that group thing ain't working out. So we're going to keep it solo dolo. Play on, players.